Thank you so very, very much for coming this morning um, on this very, very, truly very special occasion as we honor, contain yourself, Pammy, as we honor a good, good friend, the former supervisor of the Town of Islip, Frank R. Jones. Let me begin by recognizing the members of the town board that are here this morning. Um, our Councilman John Cochran, Councilman Steve Flotterin, Councilwoman Mary Kate Mullen, Councilwoman Bergen, and our town clerk, who we are joined here today by a former town clerk, Bill Tyler, but our present town clerk, Olga Murray. So thank you so much. And there are so many notables, in the history of the town of Islip that are here today, none the least of which is also a former supervisor, the Honorable Judge Peter Cohalan. So before I turn it over to Peter, who really is the reason that we were able to have that ceremony today, is that Frank is the one who, Peter is the one who brought it to my attention about possibly renaming the beach in Frank's honor. And if it wasn't for Frank and his diligence, we wouldn't be standing here today, because he is the one that preserved it. This was due to be acquired, demolished, or whatever was going to happen, but put into private hands. And it was Supervisor Frank Jones who stopped it. And I was talking to someone earlier, and I said, I don't know if we would be able to accomplish that in today's environment. I have to tell you, you truly were a man of vision. Some of the things that we have here in the town, that we enjoy in this town, we wouldn't have if it hadn't been for you. And again, I don't know if we could make it happen today. It is a different world. Also with us today is our state senator, Phil Boyle. Phil, thank you for being here. So I have a few little highlights about Frank, and there are some things that you guys probably could fill in more than I, but I had the pleasure of being the president of the Chamber of Commerce in West Islip when Frank Jones was the supervisor. So we had occasion to work together on a lot of issues, none the least of which was hosting a Meet the Candidates night for the supervisor when he was running against Mr. Nolan back in the day. And it was at Barrington's, which is now Shandon Court, and it was pretty well attended, and of course Frank did a stellar job. Frank served as a supervisor from 1987 to 93 and really had a profound impact on the town's history, the effects of which residents enjoy today and future generations will be able to enjoy. As supervisor, Frank used his passion, his dedication, and his sharp wit. Sometimes we were on the receiving end of that wit, but he used all of his resources to come up with creative and innovative solutions to many of Islip's pressing issues. Today we stand at a beach that has provided decades of enjoyment for so many of our residents. And again, as I said, had it not been for his vision, we wouldn't be enjoying this. In addition to being instrumental in the acquisition of the land, Frank should be remembered for his many contributions to the revitalization of many, many hamlets and downtowns in Islip, particularly Bayshore and Central Islip. And we're joined here today by the former director, Nancy Manfredonia of CI, who, reminded me how the progress and things that happened in CI would not have happened had it not been for him. And I know that everyone here loves him and cares about him, and I'm probably talking longer than I normally would, but there's a little story I want to share. Mia Knapp, who works with the Town of Islip again, had been the attorney in the CDA when Frank was the supervisor, and he had the vision to see College Woods for what it could be. It was a terrible, terrible part of the community, drug infested. It was beyond description as to how bad it was. And it was Frank's vision to turn it into the wonderful community of College Woods that we have still today, 30 years later. The project was acclaimed, is in the Historic Register in Washington. And the one little anecdotal story that I want to share is that when they were working on the project and Mia was working there with him, the issue of the utilities came up and putting them underground. And Mia reminded the supervisor that in order to do that, it was going to cost an additional $70,000 to put those utilities underground, and they probably shouldn't do that. And Frank said to her, "We are not building another slum. The utilities are going underground, and I don't want to hear it again from you." So there you go. Mia. But if you drive through College Woods, it does have a different feeling. It does still have that wonderful sense of a community that's cared for, a community of homeowners that are very, very proud of where they live and proud of their town. Carlton Park in CI was an extremely dangerous, notorious location, but he saw the potential in that too. Again, that was where College Woods came in. Another major accomplishment is the RAP program. Our recycling program, we truly led the way in recycling. And there are some of us who do remember the garbage barge. And I'm sure Frank will never forget the garbage barge. And, you know, his son Bart told me today that he had heard from somebody in Germany who had read about the garbage barge in Germany. It was not a very good time for the town, but the supervisor braved it all. In fact, he was asked to go on to the Phil Donahue show. I don't even know if the guy's still around or on TV any longer, but he was asked to go on the show and really, you know, address the issue square on. And he did. And his cohort, Howard DeMartini, wanted to make sure that he was protected and asked a number of us if we would be willing to go along. So they had a little bus and we went into the city and we sat in the audience and Frank was there front and center, and Mr. Donahue was not too gracious and kind at times, but Frank held his own. And then the guy comes into the audience with the microphone and he's asking us, you know, to jump on and really pile on. So he came to me and I said, you know, I just want to tell you that we have a recycling program in the town of Islip, and we're very, very proud of it, and it's called RAP. And I went on to explain what the acronym stood for, and it used to be Wednesdays Recyclables Are Picked Up. So now I'm saying all of this, and I'm stumbling over it. And when I got back to my office that day, I sent him a note, and I said, you know, great job, but let's change that acronym. How about We Recycle America Proudly? And that's what it is. And we probably need to talk about that more because we are proud in this wonderful town of Islip. And because of Frank and all he has done, we have reason to be proud. And now I want to ask someone who cares so deeply about him and who knows more than I about Frank, and who is going to come up and share a few words. And also, too, I just want to recognize Claire, who's always been at his side and always been so supportive. Thank you for being here. Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Angie Carpenter, our wonderful town supervisor. And all the members of the town board who are here with us today, Steve Flotterin, my friend Steve Flotterin, and John Cochran, and Mary Kate Mullen, and Councilman Breitbart. Look around you, ladies and gentlemen, and you will see an example of the great legacy that Frank R. Jones has left to the people of the town of Islip. Isn't this a lovely park? This park would not be here except for Frank when he stopped the development many years ago. Now, Frank and I both remember this site as the Shoreham. And my family were members of the Shoreham Beach Club going back to the 1930s. And it was a beautiful beach club. But after the death of Judge Freeman, Allie Freeman, who lived right across the street in that house, it fell on poor times and had to be destroyed. And thank God for Frank in combining this property with the Shortell Healy estate to the other side to make this beach what it is today. I first met Frank over half a century ago, and we became close friends. As a matter of fact, in 1971, he ran my campaign for supervisor against the incumbent Republican supervisor, Clyde Pearsall. And then through Frank's efforts, we beat the Democratic candidate, H. Lee Dennison's son, Lee Dennison, who was my Democratic opponent, in an upset. And it was all due, in large measure, to Frank. Frank and I spent 7 or 8 years together in the town of Islip. I was supervisor, he was the deputy supervisor. And then we spent 7 years together in the county of Suffolk when I was county executive, and Frank was the deputy county executive and then the chief deputy county executive. And I tell you right now that Frank Jones is the best public administrator I have ever met. And his Bula bass is wonderful. However, he got into politics because he had a failed career as an air conditioner salesman. Years ago, Frank, a parishioner of St. Lawrence Catholic Church in Sayville, put in the air conditioning in St. Lawrence, and it didn't work. And there was a group of people who wanted to change the name of St. Lawrence to St. Frank the Martyr rather than St. Lawrence the Martyr. But that's the reason he got into local government and politics. But Frank could have been a success in anything he did. And with the tremendous support from Claire Barton Jones and their 4 wonderful children, Brett and Allison. Allison is here. Bart drove me here, which I deeply appreciate. Matt's here. It's just great to see all the Joneses from all over the country here today in this family reunion. And the reunion of all of Frank's friends, from government, politics, the Sayville Yacht Club, where he was a Commodore. He was the Commodore for many years, although everybody else did the work. Frank, we all love you. And you did so much for the people of Suffolk County and the town of Islip and the Sayville community. And as a fellow Sayvilleite and a 4th-generation resident of Sayville myself, I was proud that the town of Islip would take up a suggestion I made to Angie that we name this park after you. My only regret is I wanted the park to be named Jones Beach East. But Angie overruled me, and we have Supervisor Frank R. Jones Park, which is fine and great. And thank God Frank will be remembered for his many efforts. This is a long time coming. And I want to thank Bart also for his efforts and the whole town board for theirs in bringing about this honor for my dear friend, Frank R. Jones. Thank you very much.
So please join me in welcoming our wonderful former supervisor, Frank R. Jones.
I want to thank the town board and Angie especially for this honor, which is indeed humbling. And I say that because in many years of public life, I was on the other end giving out recipients to people, and they all always used to say, "Oh, we're humbled by this." And I used to think when these people said that, well, they don't really mean they're humbled, but they think that they're supposed to say that. So that's what they say. They say they're humbled. Now that I'm here on the other side of that coin, I realized that they really were humbled. It is because I am. It's a humbling experience to be honored by your peers, because it means that the people who know you the best love you at least and honor you for the work that you've done. It's just a humbling experience. There's no other word to use for it. And I apologize to all those people who I thought were just mouthing it. They weren't. They felt humbled, as I do feel. I feel humbled. I don't know if Tom Miles is here. He's being happy, but a lot of the people I worked with in Islip Town are here, and I appreciate that. I used to have a saying that there are some men who are born to greatness, Peter the Great. Others who achieve greatness, Muhammad Ali. And then there's a third class, those who hire crack staff to thrust greatness upon them, and I'm one of those. I asked specifically for Tom Miles because while preserving this property was my initial idea, it was Tom Miles who conceived and designed what it turned out to be. I had no idea what I was getting into at the time. I thought, well, we'll just preserve this property, and it's the last of the waterfront properties in Islip Town, so we'll preserve it. But Tom Miles made it this wonderful, wonderful park that is shared by so many families here, both boaters, swimmers, and picnickers. So I wanted to make sure that he and his crack staff got credit for a wonderful job. I think I'm about out of words because I'm humbled and I don't know what to say, and I don't want to cry in front of a bunch of other people. So, thank you. One of my crack staff back there has got the shirt that they all used to wear. And it says, "I survived Frank Jones and Howard DeMartini." So thank you all for coming. I do appreciate this honor. And I don't know if I turn the microphone back over to you, Angie.
Please.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Frank, you're going to be humbled even more because we have the requisite citation for you commemorating this wonderful event, the Town of Islip seal.
Oh, thank you.
You were the first one to give those out, if you remember. You were the first one to give those out back in the 70s. He survived Frank Jones.